And people are expecting this to happen every day. I will tell you, this is not going to happen tomorrow. We are not there yet. It will not happen in immediate future. It will happen quite soon. I'm not allowed to give any date. Even if I have some, I'm not allowed to give them right now, but it is not going to happen today or tomorrow. Things are not ready yet. There are certain things that have to happen before this is ready. And the experience of the last years have shown that even the awakened part of the surface population is not ready for this. So certain things need to happen. There needs to be more alignment and harmony and more resonance among the surface population before this can happen.
I'm going to turn some questions over here to Andrew. Andrew, you have some questions for Cobra.
Yes, I do. Cobra, thank you very much for coming on the show. For quite some time, I've been resonating with you and your message. I've also been, in my own way, in contact with many different galactic councils and been exposed to a galactic timeline that, may have a deep resonance with you. My first question for you is, as the forces of light are preparing to remove these etheric generators and satellites that keep our soul in a limited formation, tell us about these spiritual courts of equity that will help people unlock their crazy incarnation rules here. And I know this ties into the archons.
Okay, so what's the question?
The incarnation rules, are they linked to these etheric satellites? Or will we need to form neutral courts of spiritual equity to eliminate ourselves from the incarnation rules that have locked people here in cycles?
Okay, basically what the archons did, they created an artificial incarnational system with strong electromagnetic fields on the etheric plane that can actually push a soul into an incarnation. And all this is going to be removed. So basically after all negative energies are removed from the etheric plane, the souls will be able finally to choose with their own free will when and how to incarnate. Because now many people are asking themselves, why do I have parents like this? It is simply because before anybody gets incarnated, the archons give a very limited choice, very limited options where and how you can incarnate. And of course the soul wants to grow, and sometimes, or shall I say many times, until now, the soul has chosen very unfavorable conditions. I was actually forced upon those choices because the soul wanted to grow anyway, wanted to have more experience of the physical plane. But now, when those negative controlling forces will be removed, souls will be finally able to completely have freedom of creation, what kind of lifetime they want to create. And this is going to be a big liberation for humanity. And almost completely all suffering will be removed from the incarnation experience as a result of this.
That's wonderful. I've been aware of these etheric satellites for some time. My next question for you is, how do I put this? I understand the multidimensionality of this plan. Can you describe how the Council of 12 and the Archons function as a management system?
Okay, basically you have a very small group of archons on the etheric plane. There's a very small group that controls the second layer, which are the sector commanders, which are mostly of the draconian origin. And those sector commanders command the army, which are mostly the reptilian forces. And I would say the Archon type beings have limited spiritual understanding but a lot of occult power. And they use that power in alignment with their own distorted view of reality. And because their psychology is so distorted, it's hard for a normal human being to understand and comprehend. This is the reason why they are so powerful. As soon as the critical mass of humanity begins to understand what they do and how they control humanity, they will lose all their power and they will be cleared and erased from existence, from this planet. And the same structure exists on the physical plane. We have a very small group of archons which are mostly incarnated inside the Jesuit organization, and those control a little bit larger group which controls the financial system, and the group which controls the financial system then controls everybody else on the planet because everybody has to work for them. So we have a double system of control which has worked quite well for the last at least 5,000 years without any interruptions. And as soon as a critical mass of human beings understands how it works, the whole matrix begins to disintegrate. And this is exactly what's happening now and actually started happening last year. And this is the meaning of this famous 2012 breakthrough. That year, it was the critical mass of understanding of what's going on the planet. And finally, there are cracks in the matrix. And those cracks in the matrix are going to expand slowly at first and then faster and faster until the final breakthrough of the compression breakthrough, or shall I say, of the event.
COBRA, we're well aware of the Agarthian network. I myself have interviewed a gentleman, former colonel of the U.S. Air Force, Billy Fay Woodard. He's now going by his Hollow Earth name, Zarea. The gentleman was born and raised within Hollow Earth and spent the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, really, bringing forth the mission statement that we are here. In what role of the Agarthian network, which is the inner Earth dwellings, as well as the Hollow Earth population, what role are they going to be playing in this, or are they?
Okay, I will explain. The subterranean civilization is actually existing in the Earth's crust. It is not existing in the center of the planet, but there are a network of underground cities situated in the Earth's crust, and they are connected with a large network of underground tunnels. And those beings living there are very highly developed spiritually and very highly advanced technologically. And what they did, or what they were doing in the last few hundreds of years, they were actually stabilizing the planet so that humanity did not destroy it. And what they will do after the event, they will contact the surface humanity and will introduce the surface humanity also to the existence of other extraterrestrial races. They are actually our missing link between humanity and other extraterrestrial races, especially the Pleiadians. And what they are doing now, they are actually preventing the dark forces, the controlling forces, to do any large-scale damage to humanity. They are keeping them in check, so to speak. So this is the reason why we have no world war, no nuclear disaster. Nothing of that will ever happen because of the positive influence and power of the underground forces of light.
Cobra, I want to ask a question for people which often comes up at this juncture. If they're able to keep them at bay, and you and I have discussed this a lot personally, and I understand this, but a lot of people will want to know, if they're able to keep them at bay, why don't they just go ahead and get them all right now? It's the etheric archons on the astral plane, as you've explained earlier.
Okay, I will explain what would happen if they would do it right now. They physically, it's not a problem to arrest or control 1,000 Illuminati personnel. It's not a problem. But what would happen? The system itself would not be able to sustain itself because it is so ingrained with Illuminati structure. It has to be, the light forces need to have strong infrastructure enough on the surface of the planet that can sustain such a shock for the system. This is one part of the answer. The other part of the answer, the non-physical negative entities would create a lot of chaos in that case. They would trigger many physical negative events because human beings are very open and susceptible to negative influences from the astral and etheric planes. I can give you two examples. The first one is the Nazi Germany, and the second one is the Rwanda genocide. It was the whole population which was involved in those events, not just a few controllers. And the reason why the whole population was involved is because it was influenced by those negative entities from the astral and etheric plane. And until this possibility is completely removed, no action will be taken on the physical plane. Because human beings are simply too easy to control and to manipulate. The light forces will not take any risks in this. We don't want hundreds and hundreds of millions of people dead in this process.
Okay, well, I have one more thing where people say, so it makes it sound like humanity is on its knees and is a subject to these archons and the will of these astral etheric reptile beings. Are we really at the mercy of these beings? Or is there a path to freedom and a way that people can not be influenced by this? What do you recommend as the path to the freedom until humanity is ready? What will get humanity ready?
Okay, it's very simple. The key here is awareness. As soon as somebody becomes aware of what's going on, you can say no to this. And even in the time of Nazi Germany, many people were aware of there was a certain evil influence, and they said, no, I don't want to be involved in that violence. It's an individual choice for everybody, for every human being. And when the critical mass of human beings is aware of this influence, the critical mass can say no, and at that point, humanity is ready to exercise the free will and say no to this. And this is exactly the point where the event will happen. And of course, the light forces are removing those negative entities every day. Billions upon billions of reptilians are removed daily. And when most of them are removed, it will be very easy to trigger the event, and human beings will not get crazy. There might be some isolated cases, but most of human beings have a positive nature. They are not inclined to violence if they are not extremely provoked. And at that point, they will not be extremely provoked, and they will just go along with the changes quite gracefully. And this is the moment when this is going to happen.
Can you explain how humanity is provoked by an astral being? What is the process of archon influence in people that create bad decisions and result in violence? Can you explain that process from a metaphysical type of how an astral archon being in a higher dimension influences humanity and what we can do to overcome that?
Okay, I will explain very simply. I think that most human beings have had some negative experiences through childhood or through earlier life, that has caused some suppressed anger, suppressed emotions. And those emotions can be triggered. For example, if you have a being on the astral plane, a reptilian on the astral plane, that reptilian can see your aura and can see exactly, not just feel, he can actually see exactly where your anger is stored. And he will simply pressure upon that anger. He will simply trigger that anger because he sees exactly where it is until it explodes. He will keep triggering you so long that you will finally explode in anger. And if you have billions upon billions of those beings, they can keep checking aura of every human being, and they create a network of those connections. And of course, they have their, I would say, draconian overlords. They have computers. They have computer simulations of how what is the most optimal way to trigger that anger, to create the most violence possible. This is what they do all the time. This is how wars are created. And this
if we have an astral being, what is the actual trigger? If we can't see them, we can't hear them, we feel their effects from your description. But can you explain what do we do? They send an energy thought form to